Hello, everybody. My name is Elisha Royal, and you are watching. My man. This is Leroy. Oh, you're watching CDH Unhinged. My goodness, my man. Hello to you, too. He just got a bath and apparently still needs some attention. Did you knock my mic off? All right. Um, we have got another good episode. We've left you off with a mid range update. That mid-range update has been iterated and then reiterated and then tuned. And now I'm at a point where I'm going to keep playing this thing. And I'm always surprised by what swaps we make. But I made a list of most of the swaps, at least like from the last iteration that I don't think I made a video about to this one. So I'll give my reasoning why those original cards were added and then why they got swapped out, what we have now. But let's go over the general game plan that we're going to go over. So that we're attempting here. If you recall back a couple of videos ago, the main goal was to turn Mystic Forge, or by extension something like a Crystal Skull, Isu Spyglass, or a Tezzeret, which could fetch one of those, into the equivalent of an Adnaz, where you could just storm off your whole library. You can build the deck that way. Sometimes it'll sneak through. Most of the time you'll get shut down because you can't build enough protection and interaction into it in order to achieve adequate protection, right? And that goal of making it almost as lethal as an Adnaz. It just doesn't work out. Even if you have Urza, you still do it basically turn 3 or 4 when you get Urza out. Because turn 2, basically you'll get lucky and get Urza. Turn 3 is like the soonest you can do it. And by that time, people have things online and you don't have much protection. So anyways, that was like the original problem with that. And then what we did was we added a lot of board state protection. Things like Diversion Unit that just came out. Malevolent Hermit goes hard. We really like Nurok Stealth Suit, which is basically just another Swiftfoot Boots, except it doesn't give haste, but you can, for 2 blue, attach it at instant speed. And then we're also running, of course, those Lightning Greaves, Spellskite. So things to make sure that we're protecting Urza. Okay, so we did that, and then we put in a couple of things to protect our combos, notably Chimmel, the Inner Sun. Spells can't be countered. And then, what is it? It's Discover is the mechanic 5. Not so bad at the end. So we popped that in there because honestly, what we're seeing right now is just it's tough to get through. It's mid-range grind. People have cards, and so you need protection. We don't have a whole lot of color to work with, so a lot of the color pie to work with, so we are limited on what we can do to protect our turns. So we're relying on Conflail, Defense Grid, again protecting our board state, and then just having redundancy in our combos and finding the gap. I'm gonna put you down, Doug. That was the philosophy that we kind of left off with last time. Now what we've come to is all of that holds up, except once other people have seen your game plan and learned it, high level players, and adjusted for it, what you have is a moment where they can interact with Urza while he's got his construct ETB on the stack. You get Pyroblasted, you get Swords or Pathed or Pondrified or, Deadly Rollicked or whatever the case may be. It just works out like that. So what I did was added just enough of a counterspell package. And by that I mean 3 counterspells and a misdirection in order to hopefully protect Urza on the way down. We can either find the gap or force him through. So we're basically working with Fierce Guardianship, which doesn't protect against like a Pyroblast on the stack, but it does get us past that other targeted removal, something like a Path to Exile on the way to our board state, which will have something like a Neuralk Stealth Suit in order to protect him. Hopefully, if everything's going well. So we added a Fierce Guardianship, Force of Will, Mental Misstep, and then that Misdirection. That is the last one. Misdirection, again, free spell that will protect Urza because it is the linchpin of our game plan. It is what makes us successful, and it's very obvious. So once you get, again, Urza and a top deck caster, the accentuating pieces will come out, whether that is something that reduces cost or creates tokens, and basically you will get through your deck. So do or does adding like those counter spells and other forms of like heavier cards that we added to go towards the mid range, does that affect our storming capability? What I found was that if we're building a board state that is resilient, we have top deck manipulation like Forensic Gadgeteer, or some of the baubles that allow us to draw, or we can get a fetch land and just not use it and have that stockpiled, for a search the next turn. So basically, it's like you'll start top deck casting and then, hopefully hit one of your fetch lands, and then, cast that, keep on casting as much as you can. In this Mystic Forge case, we're only casting artifacts, let's say. And then, well, I guess not, because we just used our fetch land. Whatever, we use the one that we have piled up from the previous turn in that case, if we run into a land on the top. And then we can keep on going, I suppose. So it's nice there. But the point is that if you have other feature side effects and you run into something like a counter spell on the top, that's what I was getting to. So let's say we hit that Force of Will that we put in there on the top. We can use that fetch land, and then maybe we have one stockpiled, so we can get through twice. We have things like Codex Shredder. We have the Mystic Forge itself, which can pop stuff off the top. We have, again, like the Relic of Progenitus, the Aether Spell Bomb, the Soul Guide Lantern. All of those can like draw a card in order to get that thing right off the top. There's probably a few things that I'm missing, but again, that other huge one is really those clues off the Forensic Gadgeteer. You get that guy out and you are in good shape. So what we're going to do in the rest of the video here is we're going to go over this board state, which is a winning board state against some shredders. We'll talk about how I got there, and then yeah, maybe we'll have just a couple other notes about what we've been doing since then. But it is Monday, and I had a teacher growing up. His name was Terrell Smith. He was a pretty decent guy. He was an older guy. I don't know if he's still around. Hope he is. But he taught computer science classes, which was cool. And this was in Windows XP days, right? When we're talking about this, and the thing that he did on Mondays was called Monday Motivation, and he had basically developed them over his teaching career, and they were pretty good. And he would, again, give them to all of his students, and he got really good at them because, again, he has multiple classes, he's given them multiple years, and he has time to think about them, and learns different stories and attaches to them. It's a really well done presentation. And I'm like, well, I really liked the general principle of the Monday Motivation, and I didn't put anything together here. But I think in the future I'll be doing that. But as a quick piece of encouragement, you guys could do all of this stuff. There's nothing preventing you from putting in the work, figuring this stuff out, doing what I'm doing, go and win tournaments, beat some of the best players, make your mark on the game, have something personal to you, be something that you can be proud of internally, and then show that to the rest of the world with your play, and then be respected by other people if that's something that you desire. If that's what you're here to do, be respected by other players, be top tier. I promise if you win games, they'll respect you. If you're just here to grow internally, be the best player that you can, that's what I'm, here doing. The other external stuff is external. But my point is that if you choose to, you can use this game as a way to grow internally, get better, and find out exactly how far you can push yourself in what is a really gratifying, I consider it a sport. Other people are like, even the computer guys playing Overwatch and League of Legends, they're esports. They consider themselves athletes. The chess guys take their game very seriously. We call our stuff a hobby. I think that the casual mindset, that is the dominant frame of preference for our competitive scene by default, just because it hasn't existed very long, and it's not necessarily acceptable to be like, I'm going to, again, consider my relationship to the game like some of the best athletes in their respective sports consider their relationship to their activities. Again, Kobe Bryant thinking about himself playing basketball. It's just a different kind of attitude a lot of the CDH players have. People look at you and they're like, it's just a game. Why are you investing this much into it? I don't like that attitude. If people are talking to you that way when you're here putting in the work, putting in the reps, get them out. You don't need them. You're not forced to play with anybody. Show up at the tournaments. Those are the games that matter to me, really. Not that you should, ostracize yourself from the play groups, but make sure that you are spending time in games that matter. Make sure you're spending time in games that matter. People that have a similar mindset where they are going to be doing their best to play the best that they can, and they're not getting sidetracked by things that aren't winning the game. Because on tournament day, that's what everybody else is there to do. If you have somebody in the group, this isn't where I expected this to go, but if you have somebody in the group that's not there to win the game, they're there to poke this or that or play politics or make a point to somebody there. This didn't happen to me recently, but my point is that you should be spending your time improving yourself, and you don't have any business wasting time with players like that. You don't let one of those guys spoil your day, because you have leagues like this one over here where everybody's there to give 100% every time. Nobody's given a half effort there. And so my point is that you can find those games. You should go and create them. If you don't have one readily available, I promise people will come to you and be like, yes, dude, I'm ready for a top tier game where people out here trying and actually want to win and aren't putting in half the effort and just happy to be there. I like the happy to be there attitude. I respect it, but also it's like I want to play with him. I want to play with some shredders. So and that's what this channel is for. This channel is for the shredders. This isn't for the casual gamer, which is fine, and that kind of limits the scope and size of it, and I understand that. But I also get that the people that are here and putting in the work consistently and looking at the cards and hearing what I'm saying and putting in the reps like they could be, they will improve. You will grow. You'll have a good time. You'll have something to talk about. Like, you will be one of the best in your group. I promise you. If you're basically mirroring what I'm doing, you're going to be putting in a lot of work and you're going to be great. You just will be. There's nothing that would prevent you personally, the viewer, from doing that. So where are we going to be moving with the channel from here? In the near future, we're going to start doing threat assessment. So basically, every deck that we're running into in the meta, I might start with just the ones that I'm running into personally, because that's the one that I can speak with the most depth about. And then maybe by the time those are all done, we will have the ban list update, and at that point things will shake out for a minute. People will make some swaps. Maybe the meta swaps a little bit. We'll see things like Najila come back. When's the last time you saw one of those? And what are some other people that kind of got knocked out of the meta that we haven't seen in a while? It's funny to think about. There's a few of them out there, but maybe we see those and then we do a threat assessment on that and then talk about how the meta's changed, and we can reevaluate the list that we've already gone over. But what I mean by a threat assessment is basically from the perspective of Urza using this list, which I think is going to be pretty set in stone. I know I keep saying that, but I think it's really solidifying. Again, I took a lot of time between the mid-range update and this video, and by a lot of time, I mean I put in a whole bunch of. What's a lot of time? It's like I'm thinking about this in the background all the time, and then I sit down at the desk and make the swaps. And most of the time I put on the camera, and you guys can see that. But my point is like the effort. It's like you can't actively measure time spent on this activity, because if you're just walking in a circle at work, like I do a lot, thinking about this and taking a pause, look up something on your phone, trying to figure it out. How do you measure that in effort wise? I don't know. But my point is that this thing's going pretty well. I put a lot of work in, and I think that the list is settling out. And it might just come down to, again, individual card swaps, because things don't work the way that I thought they did. For example, Silent Gravestone, great card. We ended up swapping that out for Relic of Progenitus for a couple reasons. One, that draw effect, being able to get that top deck manipulation is a lot more accessible on the Relic. But also, I didn't realize that the targeting aspect of it, so Silent Gravestone is cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities. That's the first thing. That's the relevant stuff. I didn't realize that it does not interact with Underworld Breach the way that I want it to. Breach doesn't target anything, apparently. I mean, you think that okay, you're going to exile 3 cards from your graveyard. It's like it's not 3 indiscriminate cards. It's 3 what, target cards? I guess not. They're not target cards. So, anyways, yeah, and you know, this is where I get salty, where there's like 10 people in the back room because blah 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 blah. I know. We figured it out. We made the adjustment. It's a swap. We made the swap. I get it. I didn't get the rules, and it's the actually, guys. It's like, yes, dude. But that's why we're here to play. Put in the reps. Find stuff out. If you're on the edge of like creating a new way to do something, which we are here with Urza, it's like you are going to make mistakes. Straight up, like you will make mistakes, and I've lost a lot of games, guys. I've lost a lot of games figuring this out. It's like, and as soon as you notice, it's like you start getting draws, and then you get a win every once in a while. And you're like, oh, I got 2 in a row, and then I'm not losing very often. And then you're like, oh man, I'm getting a streak going, and it's card by card, method by method, function by function. But dude, that down here, losses, bro. Straight taking L's, and you just gotta like let it just boof, right off the back, and you learn. That's the point. Losing and not learning is the worst. But if you're preparing for it, you're playing the game and really executing the best that you can, and again, you should be able to execute the best that you can if you're preparing for it, right? Afterwards, you can reflect on it, and it's good to play back to back to back, right, and grind all those games. And if you've seen, what is it, Tombstone? Is that the name of it? Oh my goodness! But they got Val Kilmer where he's at the poker table, and he's what has he got? Does he got tuberculosis in that? I think. But he's basically just like pale and sweating and halfway dying at the poker table, and he's just like barely coherent, and he's sitting here playing and winning, oddly enough. But my point is, like, if you're sitting here playing to that point, are you gonna reflect properly after the game? Are you gonna remember all those things? Are you get like experience? I was listening to the Jim Ron, I believe. No, I don't think it was Jim Ron. I get these guys mixed up because they all got great advice. One of the guys, he's a big leadership guru. Anyways, his point was that experience doesn't necessarily translate to results. There's guys that have been doing things a really long time, never get any better because they're not intentionally trying to get better. You understand? And so that intentionality, it has to be the framework that you're going into the game with. I'm going to intentionally play this game to get better, and then you prepare to do that, and you'll be surprised at what that means to you. And then you play the game as best as you can, and then you take a minute and you reflect at what you could have done differently in order to get better results. A lot of people like to have simple explanations. Well, all the way down at the last play, because that's as far back as I can remember, because I didn't intentionally try and get better and remember all the things along the way and notice mistakes along the way. At the very end, in that last rotation, this person did this and pitched the game. Well, if that's the way that you think about it, then you're going to miss the thing that was 2 turns back, where you had an opportunity to foresee that ending turn play out the way that it did without leaving you any points at the end. So you can, again, with the frame of reference, go into a game and discover more mistakes and be a better player afterward, because you're improving on purpose. So anyways, let's go over to our winning board state over here, and we'll explain how we got there, why the iteration of the deck that we have right now is working as effectively as it is, and then we'll wrap it up. So good to see you, CDH Unhinged. I'm Elisha Royal. Leroy, don't mess up my intro next time, but it's glad to... Man, don't go yet. We have the most exciting new part here. Direct messages. We've got one from W. Bruce. Okay, let's see. We have got a message here. So I'm just going to unplug this so that I can read it to the camera, and you guys aren't looking at the back of me here. Okay. My name is Blank. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing in your Urza brew. I've also been tinkering with ways to play Urza outside of the quote-unquote expected meta. I see you have some mill mechanics going, and I wanted to share a line that I've come across in one of the iterations of a brew that has stayed in since. Altar of the brood is what is centered around mostly being able to mill all opponents every time a permanent comes into play. Cool. I have then been using the World Walker helm, and we went over this here. So just as a aside, this isn't 100% accurate, and we talked about that. But I have then been using the World Walker's helm and something like copy artifact, sculpting steel, or here's the real one, 3 steps ahead and making a copy of the helm. It needs to be a token for this combo to work. With the if text, as soon as the first copy comes in, you make 4 map tokens and have a way to go infinite with mana from the map tokens and infinite copies as the copies come in untapped and ready to use, giving me the ability to mill all opponents on one turn, then force a wheel draw. I don't know if it's something you can implement in your brew, but I thought I would share. Thank you for the time you put in and the information that you share. The reason why I thought that this was super relevant was because that World Walker Helm package, I don't necessarily know if we're going to put that in. I think that if we add a couple of other token generators, maybe the Chrome Host Seed Shark, which might become relevant, one of these days, then we would like that World Walker helm in there. But that also would include things like the Dramatic Reversal and the Lithoform engine, because the Lithoform engine can make a token. And then we'd also be putting in Draftna. It's like this. There's this entire other combo package that's super interesting that I've been toying around with, that it looks like Mr. W. Bruce has been toying around with as well. And I'd like to connect more with you on this one, because I think that there's a really potent and hard to interact with what is this, win condition package within, again, the Dramatic Reversal, Isochron Scepter, and Lithoform, because Lithoform and Dramatic combo. And then the Lithoform also combos with the World Walker Helm, and the World Walker Helm also combos with 3 steps ahead, and then Draftna. And then also Draftna, because it just sends things back to hand, combos with token generators and other things. So that's and cost reducers is the other thing. So that's a really potent win condition package. I think it's worth looking into, Mr. W. Brews. Let's see. I don't know if it's something you'd like to implement in your brew, but I thought I'd share. Thanks for the time you put in information. Share. Cool. So I think I said most of what I should say, but let me just read my response. It said, I really like what you're onto here. One thing I'm pretty sure, but not 100% on, is with the World Walker helm. It needs to target a token to start the loop, and copies of World Walker made by Sculpting Steel and Copy Artifact don't meet that requirement. Lithoform Engine, Draft, and Founder Letnam in the 3 steps ahead do create tokens, however. Lithoform also goes infinite with Dramatic Reversal, so I find that to be a reasonable inclusion when working with World Walker helm lines. I'll look into the altar lines more closely. I like that idea. Let's move on to R. Woods 1980. So I've started watching you. I'm in the Eisen Discord, and he's teaching me. I'm glad that you're here. Eisen's top tier. If he's teaching you, you're going to surpass me in about a couple of weeks here, if you're really absorbing what he's got to say. Build the deck, and I went to tournament. My weak spot is my turn 1 to 2. How do I overcome this? So the weak spot is 1 to 2, and we have a Moxfield list. So can I show you the list? Will it show up? I don't know if you can look over my shoulder. I don't know if this is even possible. And then can we change the view option to a visual grid, and then have basically the worst way? There's no way this is going to show up, but you're here for the audio. Okay, so we are starting off with Urza. We got the Tezzeret in there, Displacer Kitten, Fairy Mastermind, Polywog, Floodcaller, Ballista, Metamorph. Okay, so let's talk about the cards that are here that I don't have in my deck. So there is a Displacer Kitten, a Fairy Mastermind, a Phyrexian Metamorph, a Valley Floodcaller, Walking Ballista, and Polywog Prodigy. I'm going to tell you why I don't like these cards. Walking Ballista, okay, so you're going to put in, 1 mana, and then have a 1/1 counter, and then be able to pop a 1/1, maybe get a Bowmaster. It's an infinite mana outlet if you don't have Urza, but if you have infinite mana, you should have Urza. Or at least a way to get him back if you have enough interaction in your deck. I see you have a Gilded Drake, so you can get him that way if it got Draked, or you can bounce it or remove it if you're running enough of those things. I happen to run a lot of those. So. Walking Ballista doesn't really make sense. In my book, you cast it for free and it goes away. Am I missing something? Yeah, it's a 0/0. Walking Ballista enters with X11. So if it's 0, it just goes away. Cool. Valley Flood Caller. Everybody's going to be like, oh my goodness, top tier card, the best thing since sliced bread. It has not won. Tell me when you won a game with Valley Flood Caller. Specifically the banishing knack portion. I understand you can flash things over the top, but all you did there is just win with flash speed, and it happened to have come from Flood Caller. So I get it. It's like it's board state stuff. And even I don't see people doing that. I just hear reports of it. I think it's one of those things that's way overblown. I hear stories of people flashing in with Flood Caller. I don't see it. I haven't. I just played like 10 plus games over the weekend with some straight shredders and good rotation. I didn't see somebody ruin my day with a Valley Flood Caller. And and I want it to work so bad. In my list, it makes so much sense. I'm running Retraction Helix. I'm running the Banishing Knack, and we run so many things that we would love to flash in, and then we also additionally are running Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots, which give that thing haste, which is its biggest downside, is that it doesn't have that ability to go off that turn because it's summoning sick. But we get around that, with those pieces, and still doesn't perform. So it's that 101st slot. If I feel like I want it to work so bad, and it just never does. It might be a me thing. It might be I just don't pilot it right, but it's probably the right card to play, and I'm just again probably misusing it. But I don't run it. I'm not going to advise other people to run it unless they really are just like, oh man, best card. When I draw it in my opening hand, I look at it and I'm like, it could have been anything else, and I would have been happy. And I feel that way top decking it a lot of the time until it's like, oh my goodness, I'm going to win the game. But it's like if I'm already that close to winning the game, the last thing that I needed was a Valley Flood Caller. It's like I was probably going to win anyway. Phyrexian Metamorph, I really like that card, but what are we copying, guys? What do we really want? Too inconsistent. You know, everything's so low to the ground. Like there's a big thing out there. I don't know. What are we copying? If you're running the imposter mech, you're already good, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, copy effects are good. I just think that they're just not all that they used to be post Dockside, and that's not, any um, secret. So I just think that 3 mana for it. Who cares about the 2 Phyrexian? I just think that 3 is just a little heavy for what it is. Display, and I would rather run. What's the new one that people are running? The 4 cost one that just comes in as any permanent. You know what I'm saying? He's like a samurai guy. If you guys look it up, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Comes in as any permanent for 1 more mana. I think that I'm seeing that a lot more often, and you know what? That seems more reasonable because of its broadness. Because that's a mid-range card. You're in there to adapt, to the board state in the mid-range with that card. Might as well do it a lot better for 1 more mana. Okay. I guess it does tap because it's an artifact in Urza, so that gives it a little bit more of a feasibility point. Phyrexian Metamorph is also just an OG card. Like I've won a lot of games with Phyrexian Metamorph, but I don't think it fits the current times. I think it's just a step behind. Polywog Prodigy. I know that you're so cool because I play you for 2 and then I evolve and I probably have a couple artifacts, and so it evolves again with the construct. But when I'm storming off and I'm top deck casting, you suck. I hate it. So it doesn't fit in my list. But in most other lists, what I just described happening before with the double evolve, because when Urza hits, he's got 4, so you get the evolve trigger, and then you have the construct ETB, which hopefully has 3 power at that point, evolve trigger again, and then you're in pretty good shape. And it's not like you're going to bowmaster that thing down at that point as a 1, 2, 3, 5. That's kind of a tough ask. So Polywog, pretty cool. But let's get through the last couple, and then I'll give an overall assessment of this creature package. We've got the Fairy Mastermind. Okay, so Mastermind is really cool if you are basically depending on. If one of your main win conditions, in my main win condition for a long time was using Hullbreaker Horror to bounce Codex Shredder and mill people out, and then draw a card with the Mastermind or cast a Windfall was the classic option. That was like how I did things on my Polymorph build, right? So if that is something you're doing, Fairy Mastermind, getting that forced draw for the table is super valuable. Sometimes it can shut down a Thoracle. That's really funny. People forget that Mastermind shuts down Thoracle lines. I want to shout it to the rooftop. Mastermind shuts down Thoracle lines. Dude, it forces them to draw a card. And a lot of people, they'll exile that whole library with the Mastermind on there and forget about it, and then just and lament. They didn't have to go all the way with their um, what is it, Tainted Pact? Yeah, they didn't have to. But they did, and so they're going to lose. Boo, 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 boo. Fairy Mastermind is cool for that. But um, I like card burst rather than card grind. What I mean by that is I'd rather have something where I invest the mana. Like, yeah, we're in grind meta. You invest mana into a Fairy Mastermind and a Polywog. Now you invest the mana into a Flood Caller later, and then you let all that stuff just brew for a minute, and then gain the accumulated value over time, and then you let that wash over your opponents in one big wave. But the problem is that all of your opponents are doing the same thing. They're accumulating value at approximately the same rate. You might do it a little bit faster, a little bit slower. But if you're all playing these onesies and twosies, these twosies and threesies, maybe these threes, where we'll talk about it in a minute. But if you're all playing these polywogs and masterminds, and Valley doesn't do anything until I'm win callers, and whatever you're doing with Ballista, when it's not actively being a backup win condition, that's not even essential. Like if you're running all those cards, you're never going to have a burst in and create a discrepancy in resources at the table that overcomes that gradual wave that's coming and then crashing down after feeding an Esper Sentinel 4 times, I guess. Like it's like so. It's a difference in philosophy in how we play and in how we're going to play the game. So basically, what I want with my particular build is just and how it tends to win. If at least how it was winning before other people kind of figured out what it was doing, and how it's kind of still winning now, except with a little bit of counterspell flavor, that spice in there, is basically just go down like a big protected middle finger down the field and be like, I know you have a this and a that and a this, and you got a Ristic, and I'll let you draw whatever, but I've got a defense grid, I've got a Conflail, you know, I'm protected by my Lightning Greaves, and I've got the Swifties on the Vidalcan Archmage. That was a thing that happened the other day. That was cool. So it's like it's so protected, and then you just toss in like a Fierce Guardianship and a Misstep and a Force of Will, and it's just like, okay, that's just enough to get by. But my point was, when you drop the final card, there's not the final card being that top deck caster. There's protection, and there's not these things plugging you up. Like when you're trying to win the game, Polywog doesn't do anything for you. Mastermind, does it do anything for you if I'm trying to win the game? I guess that Codex thing I said, Ballista, like, and Floodcaller, it's like they are those, in theory, oh yeah, the only thing they do is win the game, but also they're so not good at it that it's like, oh, okay. So Displacer Kitten, I run one of those decks that's supposed to storm off, and not even I dare touch the Displacer Kitten, because you know what happens with Displacer Kitten? There's just like a couple of copy effects in the game, and it seems like everybody likes to copy a kitten, and that sucks. And then it's like, okay, every non-creature it's just four. We're just gonna get right to it. 4 is a lot. 4 is a lot. When I play 4 mana and nothing happens immediately, or it doesn't have like a tap ability like the One Ring to do something immediately, there's another card that has to do something. It's a lot of, basically it has to be a Smothering Tithe kind of card. in order to like justify itself. And even like Smothering Tithe is a perfect example of a thing that I hate because it's so grindy and the upfront cost is so stiff. And I want I want my stuff now. I'm greedy. I want my stuff now. Um, so for 4 mana, displace, give me something really cool right now. I like that sorcery package. Straight up, just fabricate, reshape, transmute, nothing extra. Good work. I do wonder where the Seagate is. Born, you like it, you like it. You're running a lot of counter spells here. Let's talk about them. Chain of Vapor. Okay, so if you're not on Flood Maw 99% of the time. Yeah, so I don't see you on Flood Maw. 99.9% of the time, you should just run Flood Maw instead of Chain. People will take the Chain, they'll use it against you. You'll need it to remove a thing, and they'll bounce your Urza. Like Chain will backfire because people like when you're using it at the at those winning turns when it's super relevant, and it's like, oh man, I'm just making sure my mic is on. When you're using that Chain at the super relevant moments, people have the lands to sack. They'll be like, whatever, like that, and then things like top tier plays can be made with Chain, and I run Chain just because I need to be able to cast stuff off the top, and it's not a bad card, and it's a classic, but I just think that given Floodmaw existing, the finality of it, the finality of the Floodmaw is preferable to the potential upside and potential downside of the Chain of Vapor. Unless you're super confident in using that card, I would just swap to Floodmaw. Born Upon a Wind. What you flashing in, buddy? Cyclonic Rift, I really like that as a board wipe. I'm like, it's the only one that we really got. This is the only one that we're running in here. And targeted removal, for 2, it's a little expensive. It's the same opinion that everybody has of Cyc Rift. It just is card for card, pretty flexible. Dispel, high tier, 1 mana interaction. I'm huge on right now. If you're not running a Stifle, I might consider running Stifle. Yeah, if you're on Swan and you have Dispel and no Stifle, I'd consider maybe, do you run Trick Bind? I'm not seeing a Trick Bind. I'm not seeing just a straight up Stifle. Choose whichever one you like. I'm really big on 1 mana interaction these days. So I really like Stifle, but also that split second ability right now with the way that the mid-range grind is going and the redundancy that people are able to get, again, that huge burst and then overwhelm the table. It's really nice to have that Trick Bind where it's just like the crux of your combo. It's just not going to happen this turn, and there's not anything that they can generally do about that. So I like Trick Bind a lot. Maybe I would pop that in for a Dispel. Machine over Matter. Yeah, again, I would be taking a look at that Flood Maw. If you're on Machine and Chain and not Flood Maw, maybe I would look at Flood Maw. And you probably, why do I feel like you're on Resculpt? Yeah, you're on Resculpt. So, and Miscast. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about this. Pongify is dope, so let's keep that. And how about we swap out Machine over Matter for just a Rapid? Just because, yeah, Pongify and Rapid are just super good right now. Resculpt also, I would say Rapid is better than Resculpt right now because, 1 mana is 1 mana. And 2 mana is 2 mana. Sure, flexibility, but, War of Invention, I have mixed feelings about. 3 blue is so steep. But I think about it as 5 mana for Reality Chip. Tutored. Mindbreak Trap, get rid of it. Does it protect your win? Does Mindbreak Trap protect your win? No. It doesn't. Force of Negation. You want to hard cast a Force of Negation for 3 to protect your Basalt combo? Do you want to do that? I don't want to do that. Let's pop something else in there. Something that protects you. Something that prioritizes your turn. I know I was just talking about trick bind. The stifles protect you. The protective aspects of the stifles are often overlooked. When's the last time you had a protected win and you're going off and you thought that you just were in the clear, and then Beseju, Odawara classics. What's the other one? Swift reconfiguration. Is that also the channel effect? Or yeah, that might not be the right one, but there's another white card that does that, and I'm not down for it, guys. Those channel effects, they're too prevalent. So might as well have a 1-mana stifle that stops the Ranger Capsack on your turn, and leave that Force of Negation at home. Let somebody else take care of the whatever, you know. Your stifle can stop a win pretty much just as effectively as the Force of Negation, and it protects you. So, and it costs way less mana, and you don't have to pitch a card. Sure, it's free, but okay. Moving on to our artifact selection. Aether Spellbomb, top tier card. Arcane Signet, top tier card in Urza. After you have Urza, feels really bad. You go mana negative. And any other 2-drop feels better. Isochron Scepter, if you don't have... Yeah, so you have Mystical... Muddle. What else you got? Mystical Muddle. Yeah, buddy. I don't like Isochron because I've explained why I like Isochron in the past, but the thing that I'm thinking about right now is whether or not having 2 tutors that can find dramatic reversal is enough in order to justify the Isochron Scepter combo. And because they're both individually pretty decent, I mean, Isochron's a Garbo card individually, in my opinion. Imagine you want to put a Pongify or something like that on there. You're paying 2, and then you can't tap it for mana like a normal artifact, and then you got to pay another 2 in order to activate it. You paid 4 to get that Pongify, and then sure, you retap it, you untap it the next turn, but you're paying double now every time for your 1-mana spell. Let's say you get a 2-mana spell on there. I don't know, man. Can you get the dramatic reversal consistently? That's the question. You got 2 pieces. I think dramatic reversal is pretty cool. If you're willing to take the dead card that is Isochron, I'm not. Go for it. I don't run either of those cards, even though they're great, because the thing is that in my opening hand, which determines the trajectory of the game, both of those are hot garbage. Okay. Basalt, top tier. Chrome Mox, top tier. Codex Shredder, I like it. Everflowing Chalice. I cut it recently, even though I'm like storming off. It should be like the best in theory. 2-mana rock, right? Because once you have Urza, you cast it for 0 and you can bounce it back and forth. Everflowing Chalice is like kind of, I should say it's like pretty sweet in Urza. I'm just not super hot on it. Grafdiggers, man, you should prioritize your chip top combo, get some producers in there. Yeah, so if Grafdiggers is not affecting you and your game plan, you don't find that it's interrupting your play, oh my goodness, it shuts people down. It shuts me down. I have to deal with that card in order to do what I want to do. And it's the same for a lot of other people. So Grafdiggers, cool card. Keep running it. I wish I could run it, but it's designed to make sure that I can't do what I'm doing. Imposter Mech, get that Bowmaster. I like that card. Manifold Key, get off the untappers, guys. Get off the untappers, please. What you untapping? You tutoring for that 1 ring all the time? If you're running if you're running a 1 ring build and you're tutoring for that 1 ring, get those untappers in there and go hard. But Are you getting a mana vault with your manifold key all the time? We're tapped. Once you get Urza, the mana efficiency of the keys, it's not that great. It's not that great. And it's also producing colorless. If you're trying to get stuff out of, if you're like tapping the things in order to natural tap your vault or your monolith, like I'm wondering if there's like a Thran, like maybe like I don't know, even like a Thran Dynamo, like nope. What are you untapping? That like what are you untapping? You get one really cool explosive play and a bunch of what ifs, like if you know, and I'm like what if, but they're pretty tangential. It's not consistent. It's not consistent. And you know, we're about consistency, reliability, winning games consistently. And the thing is that the potential upside, even when you do get the manifold key, best case, isn't really even like the perfect turn is you get the manifold key and the untapper, or excuse me, you get the manifold key, untapper, and the one ring, and then you do that. So you draw one, and then you draw three, and then you tap that thing when you, man, and then the next turn you do it again, so you're gonna get four and then five. But if that's the best case scenario, and it's that inconsistent, you should probably leave it at home. Mishra's Bauble, dude. Do you do anything the turn I cast you other than exist as a 0 mana artifact that could have been anything else when I'm storming off the top? No. No. The baubles are like you have the baubles are an admission that you don't have anything else um in your card pool that would have been better. The bauble, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, it sounds so hot. It sounds so good, those bauble. Nah, bro, you play the bauble. You have it's like, let's say you have a bauble in opening hand, you're like, oh, I get like filtering or something like that, I get a little piece of information. What you're doing is swapping that card out for one more that's in your deck, and you don't know what it is. You're looking at your opening hand and it has a bauble in it, and it's just going to be filtered into the next card, and you don't know what it is when you could have just had that card, you know, any other card that you in your opening hand and known what it is and not have to like make decisions based on unknown information. Like it just, and again, it doesn't do anything the turn you cast it. It has to do something when you cast it. Doesn't matter if it's 0 or 4. Like, oh, it needs to do something. Oh, I know the delayed gratification is cool, but not in CDH. I need every card to do something when I play it, dude. Oh my god, the baubles get me fired up. Mox Diamond, I have it in my list for the moment because I went up to 26 lands. That velocity to just get that 3 mana turn 2. Ooh, yep, I like that card. Mox Opal, cool. Prize Statue, never going back. I love those cards. I love those cards. I was skeptical at first, and I remember looking at them and not having any faith as a deck builder. And then whoever did it incorporated. I don't know if it was Eisen himself, Saint Eisen. I don't know if he figured that out and then put it up there, or who's the pioneer. But yeah, those things are good. Sapphire Medallion. I should run it. I don't. It's that 101st slot. You not have enough mana? You're running out of mana right now? I don't know. Um, the thing about the medallion is that I look at our interaction list, and I've got a lot of one costs in my list. So you've got things like Resculpt, you've got things like the Dramatic, the Born. Um, yeah, I guess those. Uh, and then I guess you've got Polywog and Flood Caller. I don't know. I've got a lot more blue permanents that I feel like would be reduced. Um, yeah, Ristic, copy, and oh yeah, we're gonna get rid of that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So honestly, Sapphire Medallion. I don't think that you got how many artifacts you got total? 29, and then 22. The thing is that most of like a lot of these instants you're gonna be casting for free or for one. Cost reduction doesn't help you. A lot of these permanents, um, over here, yeah, you can be reduced, but you can probably pay for those, bro. Like you can probably get something that has more utility. If you're not on disruptor flute, yeah, I'm not seeing the flute. Maybe you get like another little piece of disruption in that sapphire medallion slot. I'm really liking that these days on Kinnan. I'm really liking that on Thrasios. I'm really liking it on Kenrith. I'm really liking hitting the Dahada with that. I played it and named Thassa's Oracle, and that saved the game the other day because it cost 3 more to cast. Um, yeah, let's maybe rethink that Sapphire Medallion slot. Sensei's top tier, Soul Ring, One Ring, Thought Vessel. You have enough cards in your hand that you need maximum hand size. Yeah, okay. I never have that problem. You know, I'm playing my cards. I don't know why you're not playing your cards and you're needing a bigger hand size. But let's maybe, if you're looking for another one, do you have a Felwar in here? Did Felwar make it? So if you're worried about it not going off turn one, let's at least just take this thought vessel and put a mind stone in. You know, um, I don't know what the reasoning is behind the thought vessel. Maybe there's one that I don't know about. But let's at least just be like, let's add a functionality that's a little bit more consistent if we're looking for whatever for that colorless rock. I don't know. I don't know what you got going on with that thought vessel, but let's at least make it a mind stone. Um, in my opinion. Unwinding clock. Okay, yeah. If you've got all the untappers in the world, you should be going for the One Ring, I guess. Urza's Bobble, get it out. It's one of my favorite cards because it's an Urza card, but it's one of my least favorite cards because it's one of the worst Urza cards in the sense that when you play it, it doesn't do anything. Do you have Urza out? No. Then you're just cycling for the next card in the early game when you would rather have just had that information, get it out of here. Yeah, you get to see another opponent's hand or top deck or whichever one it is, but nope. I would prefer that you guys take out the unwinding clock. I'd prefer that you guys take out the keys and then slot in something that is more consistent and not dependent upon being there with other cards. Because guess what happens when you have one of those cards? The effective one doesn't hit the board. It's one of those things that just draws interaction. And if you get it down, it's not that good. Could have had 3 individual pieces that were, I don't know, better. If you just played the 3 individual pieces that were higher value than the 3 pieces that you had to put together in order to make this thing effective. Yeah, it was a cool idea while it was out, and I had a turbo One Ring list that was really cool. Yeah, but card burst, guys, and I get that you put the untappers, and that's like that is card burst, but it's inconsistent. Are you getting that all the time? Is that happening regularly? Are you going out of your way to do that? If so, keep doing it and accentuate that game plan. I had a Turbo One Ring list. It was really cool, but I don't see some other accentuating pieces in this list that justify that. So let's put the unwinding clock away and find something that at that CMC does something when you play it. Because it doesn't do anything when you play it. For 4 mana, you play it, and what does it do? Nothing. Nothing. So, back to basics. I'd rather have Harbinger come out because guess what happens when you play back to basics immediately? It's 3 mana, and guess what it does? Nothing. It doesn't do anything. Straight up, doesn't do anything. So let's maybe put in the Harbinger of the Seas when you put out there. Everybody's like, oh no! Like it can almost be like a pseudo silence because if you're looking at a couple of Rakdos players, which is what happened in my last game. In my last game, I think there was a Dahada and then one of the Rakdos Lord or something, and then there was I can't remember the other guy, but if you just play a Harbinger of the Seas as your opener, there goes their path to exile. There goes their this to that, this or that, and then you play your big targets, right? And they're gonna have to put that on your harbinger, I guess. It's gonna soak something up, or it's gonna shut them right off, and they're not gonna have their off blue interaction. Anyways, but the point is the harbinger does something when you cast it immediately. It immediately changes all that stuff. Um, Back to basics doesn't become relevant to the player that just had their turn before you for the rest of your turn, that turn, that turn, and then his upkeep, like an eternity later, for that back to basics to actually matter to this player. Harbinger of the Seas matters immediately. Okay, copy artifact. What you copying? You got something of yours that you want to copy really badly? You got like, what do you just want like that isochron line where you can copy the isochron and do that? When is the last time you depended on that to win a game? When's the last time that like you just, I couldn't win the game because I didn't have a copy artifact to hit my isochron poop scepter with that doesn't do anything unless I have the specific card I can't 2-4 reliably. What are you copying? Super efficient for colorless and a blue. I like it a lot. But it's an artifact that is like, it's an enchantment, right? So it's like, in my mind, when I'm casting it, I don't get creation triggers off like my Glaring Flesh Raker or a Forensic Gadgeteer. I get that that's not the case in this list, and that's okay. But I'm just wondering, what in your list are you trying to copy that's so valuable? And are you waiting around the table for somebody to cast something that's so powerful that you're going to copy it? At that point, wouldn't you, copy enchantment, same philosophy. Are you like, oh, there's a Ristic all the time, I'm gonna pay 3 and get my own? How about at least for the copy enchantment, let's upgrade it to a steel enchantment, 2 blue steel enchantment, and at least it's a removal. And because I mean, if you're copying, that's the only case that I can see for running copy enchantment, is that you also have steel enchantment and just love that effect. So let's swap the copy enchantment for a steel enchantment. Mirror Maid, what you copying, dude? What are you copying? I get it. It's like, you have your Gadgeteer and you can copy a Basalt. That's hot. I get it. It's like you get a copy a Ristic, but why don't you spend 3 mana on, or maybe why don't you just spend like 2 more mana on a future side effect that works every single time and isn't contingent upon there being something valuable out there? Like, that's it's inconsistent. You know, you got 3 mana available. It's like, oh my goodness, I got the Chromox, I got the Mox Diamond, I got the land out turn 1, and my payoff card is a 3 mana, no target. Like, how about you put a 3 mana, even a Harbinger? Again, I'd put a Harbinger in that slot or something like that, because guess what? It does something every single time immediately when you cast it. Is that I feel like that should be the requirement. Like, for a good card in my mind, does it do something immediately every time when you cast it? Like it's pretty basic. Does the card do something when you cast it immediately every time? If it doesn't fit that requirement, you probably have a better card. So leave Mirror Maid at home. Mystic Remora, top tier card. Power artifact, you do one thing and you do it really well. Props to power artifact. Ristic Study, you're broken. Let's look at your land. Crystal Vein. We're living in mid-range grind, fellas, so how about we don't be sacrificing our lands unless they're making blue? I like Sapphire's Scary. I think Crystal Vein sacking to make that 2 colorless. I don't agree. Hard pass. If you like Crystal Vein, keep playing it. I can see the case for it, and I might try it. Worth investigation. I shouldn't be so quick to discount the Crystal Vein. Emergent Zone, top tier. Otawara, top tier. Flooded Strand, yep, I like the top deck manipulation, the land thinning. Gemstone, top tier card. We're looking at a good old Polluted Delta, Saga, Prismatic, Vista, Scalding Tarn, Seeded, Synod. I like this. This is a lot like my own land package. Yeah, islands are underrated. Just running straight basic islands underrated. Look into, I think, a couple more tech lands. I think that you could, in this list, maybe look at a Fomori Vault. I don't run that one myself, but you might be able to look at that one. Put a Wasteland in there. Hit this Gaia's Cradle. You know, if you're looking at the sack lands. Okay, so that is my response to Mr. R. Woods. And let's move on over to our winning board state over here, and we'll talk about how we got there. Again, if you have questions about your list, if you have questions in general, find me on the Discord, right, fellow Urza players. So go over to the Discord. I leave the links over in the description of these videos. You can find me there. If you want to contact me on Discord, I'll probably accept your message request like I did these guys, and then maybe you get read on stream like this if your question leads to some good conversation. So that's the end of our long intro and our community engagement. And you are watching CDH Unhinged. Goodbye. For the moment. Okay, I was going to go through the effort of setting up like the whole overhead cam thing, but I think I'm just going to hold it while I show you guys this. So this is a winning board state. I have the old list up here, but you can see we have our player rankings here. I'm down in number 8. So this is not representative 100% because it doesn't keep into account like how many games are played. It's a local league. So we can see, yeah, kind of what's going on here. But if you look at me right now, I've got, come on. I want to see like my wins, losses, and it just has my win percentage, but it doesn't take into account the draws. 18.75. So not killing it. Not killing it. But that again has been the proof that I've been tuning this list. Anyways, let's take a peek at our winning board state here. What actually ended the game was this Basalt and this Forensic Gadgeteer creating the infinite mana and then getting the Aether Flux out here and then just casting a couple spells because this all basically came out this turn. What got me to this board state was this reality chip. When you cast off the top, you create these clues, you're able to tap. This Urza, again, is creating the mana for the loop. So people are very keen to take out this Urza. Normally, I have some kind of protection thing for this. I don't in this case. So we had to use one of our very rare counter spells. This Repurposing Bay getting cast off the top ate a Red Blast because that Repurposing Bay would have been able to change one of these clues into our Sensei's top and then complete the loop, right? But instead, they Red Blasted that. I let that go and then just continued to cast off the top, hit the Basalt, comboed there. So combo redundancy is great. This was our engine that was also just keeping the mana train going along with the clues. Okay, so basically I was able to draw off the top here anything that was getting in the way with the clues, and then I was able to cast off the top here with the reality chip, and then this was just the extra mana. If they were going to try and get Urza anyway with like a flash in, a Gilded Drake or something like that with a Born Upon a Wind or something like that, we can just bounce Urza back to hand that we can replay in there with the Spellbomb. That's kind of what I'm thinking there. We've got a little bit of top deck manipulation with the ability to use a mana in order to sack that Spellbomb, as well as the Soul Guide Lantern to get another land off the top. So what do we have off the top? If they counter that Basalt, what are we running into? We're going to run into a Signet. So let's say we cast a Signet. We're basically going to untap the Golem off of the trigger from the clue entering, and then when the Signet enters, it'll also untap the Golem. Sorry, I'm not explaining it very well, but basically you have the cast trigger off of the Arcane Signet, which creates the clue. We're going to tap the Battered Golem in response to the clue creation. Clue ETB, Battered Golem untap, and then we have the Arcane Signet still incoming will tap the battered golem in response. Arcane Signet ETB untap golem. So you see how it just goes off, and then we create an insane amount of mana. And then basically, you run into grinding station, basically same thing as the battered golem, but you can see our ability to storm is just insane. And so, we have another win right there. Let's say if they hit that basalt, we would attach that to the monolith. Let's say that they get that, we have a banishing knack, and then we can attach that to our golem, and then we just have to basically keep going until we get a haste enabler, right? So basically, Conflail, and there's our protection, and these are all artifacts. So we're just creating insane stuff. So even if they counter the first couple of things, right? My point is that the common denominator is Urza. So don't freak out when they counter your repurposing bay and pitch your fierce at it. So they pitched a red blast at the repurposing bay. Who cares? I'm going to storm into the basalt in this case. And, even if they got the basalt, then I'm just going to storm into the power artifact in that case, or, and just keep on going, keep on trucking. You got other way, or then you get the banishing knack, and all we need is the haste enabler. It's like, we've got ways to win. So this card right here, this fierce guardianship, what I did is I used this to protect against the second red blast from the other player that was targeting Urza, and then fierce guardianship guarded him. That's why we run a couple of counter spells. We're going to be running fierce guardianship, force of will, mental misstep, and a misdirection for the same purpose, making sure that that guy stays on board. Because guess what? Everything else kind of just happens. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave you guys off today. We just wanted to explain that real quick. We went over what we did to adjust this to the mid-range while also retaining its ability to storm off. You can see that we have our draw, our ability to grind. We have a little bit of interaction out here to make sure that other people aren't winning. We have our protection spells. We have our counter spells even too now. We have our tutors. We have our removal. We're at 26 lands. It's a pretty balanced package. We had a couple of weak spots. We got our top deck manipulation. We got our graveyard hate. It's like we had a couple of weak spots with the build before, but I think we rounded it out. We're looking pretty good. Okay, CDH Unhinged. Everybody, take care.